What if the woman serving champagne at your wedding becomes the one you can't stop thinking about years later? The ballroom glitters under 1,000 crystal lights. Laughter spills through the crowd like expensive wine. A bride twirls in white silk, her smile rehearsed to perfection. The groom stands beside her, his tie slightly loosened, his eyes scanning the room with the distant look of someone going through the motions. Everything is exactly as it should be. The flowers are flawless. The music is tasteful. The guests are appropriately impressed. And then there's Maya. She moves through the chaos with the kind of grace that comes from being invisible, not because she wants to be, but because that's what the job requires. Wedding caterers exist in the margins of other people's happiest days. They keep the glasses full, the plates cleared, the illusion seamless. They're ghosts in black uniforms, ensuring the fantasy never breaks. Maya has done this 100 times, maybe more. She's stopped counting. But tonight feels different. She notices him first during the toasts, while everyone else watches the best man stumble through a half-drunk speech. She sees the groom staring out the window. His jaw is tight. His fingers drum against his champagne flute in a rhythm that doesn't match the music. Maya has learned to read people in these moments. You spend enough time at weddings, you start to see the cracks, the forced smiles, the arguments disguised as photographs, the way some couples look at each other like strangers who just met in an elevator. This groom looks trapped. She shouldn't care. She's here to work, not to psychoanalyze the clients. But something about his expression stays with her as she refills water glasses and clears dessert plates. There's a loneliness in his eyes that feels familiar. The kind that comes from making a decision you can't take back. The night winds down. Guests filter out in clusters, their voices hoarse from shouting over music. The bride disappears into a white limousine, trailing tulle and rose petals. The groom stays behind to settle the final details with the venue manager. Maya is packing up serving trays in the kitchen when she hears footsteps behind her. He's still in his tuxedo, but the bow tie is gone now. His hair is slightly disheveled. Up close, she can see the exhaustion etched into his face. "I wanted to thank you," he says quietly. "You kept everything running smoothly tonight." Maya nods, unsure how to respond. Gratitude from clients is rare. Most of them never look at the staff twice. "It's my job," she says, turning back to the trays. There's a long pause. She can feel him standing there weighing something unspoken. "Can I ask you something?" His voice is softer now, almost hesitant. "Do you ever look at these weddings and wonder if anyone actually means it?" Maya freezes. It's the kind of question you're not supposed to ask on your wedding night. The kind that reveals too much. She turns to face him. "That's not really my place to say, but if it were." He takes a step closer. There's something desperate in his expression now, if you could be honest. She considers lying, considers telling him what he probably wants to hear. But there's something about the raw vulnerability in his question that makes her choose truth instead. "I think people mean it when they say it," she says carefully. But meaning something in the moment doesn't always make it true. He exhales, like she's just confirmed something he's been afraid to admit. "I'm James, by the way, Maya." They shake hands. It's absurd, really. The formal introduction at the end of his wedding night. But nothing about this conversation feels normal. "I should go," he says, but he doesn't move. She's waiting. Maya nods. She watches him walk toward the door, his shoulders heavy with something that looks like regret. She doesn't expect to see him again. But 3 weeks later, he's sitting at the counter of the small cafe where she picks up coffee before her morning shifts. She almost doesn't recognize him out of the tuxedo. He's wearing jeans and a gray sweater, his hair slightly longer than she remembers. He looks younger somehow, less burdened. He sees her before she can decide whether to say hello. Maya, his face lights up with recognition. "I was hoping I'd run into you here." She gestures at the cafe, skeptical. "This is pretty far from the venue, I know." He looks almost embarrassed. "I asked the venue coordinator where you usually worked. She mentioned you came here sometimes." A strange feeling settles in Maya's chest. Something between flattery and alarm. That slightly concerning behavior for a newly married man. "Separated," he corrects quickly. "As of 5 days ago." The word hangs in the air between them. Maya doesn't know what to say. Part of her wants to walk away. This is too complicated, too messy. She doesn't get involved in clients' personal lives. That's the rule. But another part of her, the part that saw the loneliness in his eyes that night, stays rooted to the spot. "I'm sorry," she says, and means it. "Don't be." He runs a hand through his hair. "It was the right decision. Probably should have made it months ago." He pauses, then adds, "That conversation we had in the kitchen. That was the most honest I'd been with anyone in over a year." Maya shifts her weight, uncomfortable with the weight of his confession. "I just answered a question. You told me the truth. Everyone else just kept telling me what I wanted to hear." The barista calls out her order. Maya collects her coffee, aware that James is watching her, waiting for something. "Can I buy you breakfast?" he asks, just as a thank you. Nothing weird. Everything about this is weird, Maya thinks. But she finds herself nodding anyway. They sit by the window. Morning light streams across the table between them. James tells her about the marriage that was more habit than love. About the engagement that happened because it seemed like the next logical step. about the wedding planning that felt like organizing a performance rather than celebrating a commitment. I kept waiting to feel something, he admits. Some moment where it would all click into place. But it never came. Maya listens. She's good at that. Years of working in service have taught her how to be present without imposing. But this feels different. This feels like the beginning of something she can't quite name. What about you? James asks. Why weddings? Most people in your position seem to either love them or hate them. Maya considers the question. I guess I'm looking for the real ones, the couples who actually see each other. They're rare, but they exist. When you find them, it reminds you that it's possible. You believe in it then. Love. I believe in the version that doesn't require a performance. James smiles. It's the first genuine smile she's seen from him. It transforms his entire face. They talk until their shift starts. Then they talk again 3 days later. And again the following week. Coffee becomes lunch, becomes long walks through the city. They never plan it. It just keeps happening. Maya tells herself it's just friendship, that he's processing a difficult time and needs someone neutral to talk to. But somewhere between the second week and the third, something shifts. Retry T. Something shifts in the space between words left unspoken. It happens on a Thursday afternoon in late autumn when the city is painted in shades of amber and rust. They're walking through a park Maya has passed 1,000 times but never really noticed. James points out a sculpture hidden behind overgrown hedges, a bronze figure reaching toward the sky with such desperate yearning that it makes her chest ache. I used to come here before the wedding, he says quietly, just to sit and think. Sometimes I'd stay until it got dark. He pauses, his breath visible in the cooling air. I was trying to convince myself I was making the right choice. Maya stops walking. And now I realize I was asking the wrong question. He turns to face her fully. It wasn't about right or wrong. It was about whether I was being honest. And I wasn't. Not with her, not with myself. There's something in the way he looks at her that makes Maya's pulse quicken, a recognition she's been trying to ignore for weeks. She knows what's happening here. She's not naive, but acknowledging it feels like stepping off a cliff into empty air. James, she starts, but he shakes his head. I know this is complicated. The timing is terrible. I'm technically still married on paper, even if we're living separately. You don't need this mess in your life. He takes a breath. But I can't stop thinking about you. And I don't mean that in some dramatic movie way. I mean literally. You're the first thing I think about when I wake up. The person I want to tell when something funny happens. The only one who makes me feel like I'm actually present in my own life instead of watching it from a distance. Maya's throat tightens. She wants to tell him that she feels it too, that their conversations have become the architecture around which she builds her days, that she catches herself smiling at random moments because of something he said hours earlier, but admitting it feels dangerous. Like giving voice to it will make it real, and making it real means accepting all the consequences that come with it. I serve cocktails at other people's celebrations for a living, she says instead, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm not exactly the person you build a future with. Why not? The question catches her off guard. Because people like you don't end up with people like me. You have a career, a house, a life that makes sense. I work 3 jobs just to afford a studio apartment in a neighborhood most people avoid after dark. James steps closer. She can see the gold flecks in his brown eyes, the small scar above his left eyebrow. People like me, he says slowly, spend so much time building lives that look good on paper that they forget to check if those lives actually feel good. You know what I did for 2 years? Corporate law, 80-hour weeks reviewing contracts for pharmaceutical companies, made excellent money. Hated every single minute. He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture she's come to recognize as his tell when he's being vulnerable. I quit 3 days after the separation. My parents think I've lost my mind. Maybe I have, but I don't care anymore. What are you doing now? Teaching English to immigrants at a community center. Pays about 1/10 of what I used to make. He smiles, and it's that same genuine expression that transformed his face at the cafe. I've never been happier. Maya feels something crack open inside her chest. This man who had everything expected of him walked away from it all. Meanwhile, she's been so afraid of wanting more that she's convinced herself ambition itself is dangerous. I didn't finish college, she admits suddenly. Everyone assumes I did because I talked like I did. But I dropped out sophomore year when my mom got sick. Someone had to work full-time to help with bills. By the time she recovered, I'd already fallen too far behind. Too much debt, too many responsibilities. Do you want to go back? No one has ever asked her that before. They usually just nod sympathetically and change the subject, as if her incomplete education is a tragedy too sad to discuss. I used to want to teach literature, she says. I loved stories, the way they could transport you somewhere else, make you feel less alone. She laughs bitterly. Now I just serve food at parties. You could still do it. I'm 28. By the time I finished, I'd be in my 30s and drowning in student loans. So James's voice is gentle but insistent. You'll be in your 30s anyway. Might as well be doing something that makes you feel alive. The simplicity of his logic is almost offensive. As if it's that easy. As if wanting something is enough to make it possible. But there's a part of her, buried deep beneath layers of practical resignation, that wants to believe him. They walk in silence for a while. The sun is setting now, casting long shadows across the path. Maya thinks about all the weddings she's worked, all those couples making promises they may or may not keep. She used to be cynical about it, used to think the whole institution was a performance designed to mask the inevitable disappointment of intimacy. But maybe she had it wrong. Maybe the problem wasn't love itself. Maybe it was the way people approached it, like it was supposed to look a certain way, happen at a certain time, follow a certain script. I'm scared, she says finally. The admission costs her something. Of what? Of this, of you, of wanting something that might disappear. She turns to face him. Everyone in my life has either left or needed me to take care of them. I don't know what to do with someone who just wants to be here. James reaches for her hand. It's the first time they've touched beyond that formal handshake in the venue kitchen. His palm is warm, his fingers gentle but certain. I'm not going anywhere, he says. And I don't need you to fix me or save me. I just want to know you, the real you, not the version you show people at work. Maya feels something inside her begin to surrender. It's terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. She thinks about the bronze sculpture, that figure reaching desperately toward something just out of grasp. Maybe that's what courage looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the willingness to reach anyway. Okay, she whispers. Okay, I want to try. Whatever this is, I want to try. James pulls her close. The hug is not romantic, exactly. It's something deeper, a recognition of mutual vulnerability, a promise that they'll figure this out together, even if they have no idea what they're doing. The weeks that follow are strange and beautiful. They don't hide what's developing between them, but they don't advertise it either. Maya meets his brother, who looks at her with obvious skepticism before grudgingly admitting she makes James laugh more than he's heard in years. James comes to watch her work a wedding at an art gallery, staying in the background but catching her eye across the room in moments that feel like shared secrets. But it's not all easy. There are complications. James's almost ex-wife wants to reconcile, sending long emails about how they rushed into separation, how they should try therapy. His parents refuse to meet Maya, convinced she's a rebound who will disappear once their son comes to his senses. Maya's co-workers gossip about her dating a client, turning what feels sacred into something scandalous. One night, after a particularly difficult shift where a drunk groomsman tried to touch her and the bride blamed her for causing a scene when she pushed him away, Maya comes home to find James waiting outside her building. He's holding takeout from her favorite Thai place and a copy of her favorite novel, a first edition he must have spent weeks tracking down. Bad day, he asks. She breaks down crying, not delicate tears but full-bodied sobs that come from years of holding everything together. He guides her inside, sets down the food, and just holds her. Doesn't try to fix it. Doesn't offer empty platitudes, just stays. I don't know how to do this, she says when she can finally speak. I don't know how to let someone be good to me. Then we'll figure it out together. It's such a simple statement, but it shifts something fundamental. Maya has spent so long being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who takes care of everyone else. The idea that she can be vulnerable, can need support, feels revolutionary. But the real turning point comes 6 months in. Maya is working a wedding at the same venue where she first met James. She's been dreading it for weeks. Returning to that place feels like tempting fate. As she sets up the bar, she can't help but remember that night, the bride in white silk, the groom with empty eyes, the conversation in the kitchen that changed everything. Halfway through the reception, she sees a couple dancing. They're older, probably in their 60s, and the way they move together speaks of decades of practice. Not perfect. Sometimes they step on each other's feet, but they laugh when it happens. The woman whispers something in the man's ear, and his face lights up with such pure joy that Maya feels her throat tighten. This is what she's been looking for. Not the performance, not the spectacle, just the people who genuinely like each other, who choose each other every day, even when it's hard. Maybe especially when it's hard. After her shift, James picks her up. They've developed this ritual. He waits in his car reading until she's done. Then they drive to a 24-hour diner and talk until dawn. Tonight though, Maya is quiet, reflective. What are you thinking about? James asks as they sit in their usual booth. Maya traces patterns in the condensation on her water glass. I think I'm ready. For what she looks up at him really looks at the man who saw her when she was invisible, who asked her the hard questions, who didn't try to save her but walked beside her while she saved herself. To believe this is real, retrite. The belief comes slowly, then all at once, like learning to trust your weight on ice that's been frozen solid for weeks. Maya stops flinching when James reaches for her hand in public. Stops waiting for the inevitable moment when he'll realize she's not worth the complexity. Stops cataloging all the reasons this shouldn't work and starts noticing all the ways it does. That I used to think it was a myth, a story people told themselves to make random chance feel meaningful. He sets down the paper and turns to face her. But now I think maybe I was asking the wrong question. Maybe it's not about finding someone who's perfect for you. Maybe it's about finding someone who makes you want to be honest, even when it's terrifying. Maya closes her book. Is this your way of saying something? James sits up, suddenly serious. The divorce is final. As of yesterday, the words hang in the air between them. Maya knew it was coming. The paperwork has been in process for months, but hearing it stated so plainly shifts something. Makes what they have feel more real and somehow more fragile. How do you feel? She asks carefully, relieved. Guilty for feeling relieved. Sad for the time we wasted. He picks at the grass, not meeting her eyes. Terrified that I'll mess this up too. You think my old life was having my act together? I was miserable, Maya, successful and miserable. You know what you've given me. Permission to want something real instead of something impressive. Before Maya can respond, her phone rings. It's her mother. She almost doesn't answer, but something in the persistence of the ringing makes her pick up. The conversation is brief, clipped sentences. Maya's face goes pale, then carefully neutral. When she hangs up, her hands are shaking. Maya pulls away, standing up abruptly. You don't understand. My whole life I've been the one holding things together. When Dad left, I was 11. I learned to cook because someone had to feed us. When she got sick, I dropped out of school. I've given up everything to make sure she was okay, and now she's marrying some guy I've never met and wants me to serve champagne like I'm just hired help. The anger in her voice surprises them both. Maya rarely talks about her mother beyond surface details. The resentment has been there all along, buried under layers of obligation and guilt. What do you want to do? James asks quietly. I want to say no. I want to tell her that I'm done sacrificing what I want for what she needs. Maya paces, energy crackling through her. But I can't, because if I say no, I'm the ungrateful daughter. I'm the one who abandoned her, or maybe you're the one who finally chose herself. It means you look happy. Maya, I haven't seen you look like that in years. Her mother reaches across the table, tentative. Is there someone? The question catches Maya off guard. They've never talked like this. Their relationship has always been transactional. Maya provides support. Her mother accepts it. There's no room for actual intimacy. There is, Maya says carefully. His name is James. Tell me about him. So she does. And as she talks, something unexpected happens. Her mother listens. Really listens. Asks questions that suggest she actually cares about the answers. When Maya mentions going back to school, her mother's eyes fill with tears. I'm so sorry, her mother says, her voice breaking, for making you give that up, for needing so much from you. Maya doesn't know what to do with this version of her mother, the one who acknowledges the cost of her needs, the one who apologizes. Why now? Maya asks. Why are you suddenly different? Her mother smiles. I'd like to meet him. The wedding is small, intimate, nothing like the elaborate productions Maya usually works. Just 40 people in a garden surrounded by spring flowers. Maya prepares simple, elegant food. James helps her set up, then changes into a suit and sits in the front row like he belongs there. Maya watches her mother marry Richard, watches the way they look at each other, and she realizes something that feels like forgiveness. Her mother was doing the best she could with what she knew, just like Maya is doing now, just like everyone is doing. Maya. James stands quickly. I was just telling Richard about your plans to go back to school full-time in the fall. How do you two know each other? Maya asks. Her voice sounds strange to her own ears, too calm, too controlled. Richard and James exchange a glance. It lasts less than a second, but Maya catches it. That look of two people sharing a secret they haven't decided whether to reveal. Richard is my ex-wife's stepfather, James says quietly. They got married about a year before our wedding. The garden tilts slightly. Maya grips the back of a chair to steady herself. And you didn't think to mention this, that my mother was marrying your ex-wife's stepfather. I didn't make the connection until the planning meeting. Your mother has a different last name. And by then, double quotes, James runs his hand through his hand. That gesture of vulnerability that usually softens her. Right now it just makes her angry. I didn't want to complicate things. Complicate things. Maya's voice is rising now. A few guests are starting to notice. You let me walk into this situation blind. You let me stand here serving drinks while everyone who knows probably thinks I'm some kind of rebound. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? James. She's aware that she's making a scene at her mother's wedding. The irony is not lost on her. What else haven't you told me? Richard clears his throat. Perhaps you two should discuss this somewhere private. Do I? Because right now I'm realizing I know what you've chosen to show me, and apparently that's not everything. She climbs into the van. James catches the door before she can close it. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react like this. I knew you'd find a way to make it mean you're not worthy of being loved. His voice cracks. But you are wrong. You are so wrong about what this is. She closes the door, starts the engine, drives away from her mother's wedding. From James standing in the parking lot, from the fragile belief that maybe, just maybe, she deserved something good. The whole way home, one question echoes in her mind, growing louder with each mile. What if this was never about love at all, but about two people running from mistakes they were always going to repeat. Retry T. Maya doesn't go home. She drives aimlessly through the city, watching streetlights blur into long streaks of amber. The van smells like rosemary and lemon from the hors d'oeuvres she prepared earlier. Her mother's wedding feels like something that happened years ago instead of ours. She keeps replaying the moment in the parking lot, the look on James's face, the way his voice cracked when he said she was wrong about what this is. But what if she's not wrong? What if her instincts, honed by years of disappointment, are finally protecting her from the biggest mistake of all? She ends up at the 24-hour diner. Their diner. She sits in their usual booth and orders coffee she doesn't drink. The waitress recognizes her, asks where her boyfriend is with a kind smile that makes Maya's throat tight. She mumbles something about him being busy and stares out the window at the empty parking lot. Her phone buzzes constantly. James calling. James texting. Her mother calling. More texts. She turns the phone face down and watches the coffee grow cold. What she can't stop thinking about is the timing. James's divorce was finalized the same week her mother started planning this wedding. He knew that Richard was his ex-wife's stepfather. Knew that these worlds would collide. And he said nothing. Just let her walk forward blind, making choices based on incomplete information. It's not about the connection itself. It's about the choice to hide it. The decision that she couldn't be trusted with the truth. The diner door chimes. Maya doesn't look up, assuming it's another late-night customer. But then someone slides into the booth across from her, and she knows before she sees him that it's James. I called every place I could think of, he says quietly. This was the last one. Maya finally looks at him. He looks exhausted, eyes red-rimmed, still wearing the suit from the wedding, now rumpled and creased. You shouldn't have come. Yes, I should have, because you're sitting here convincing yourself of a story that isn't true, and I can't let you do that. He leans forward, his voice urgent but controlled. Ask me anything, anything you want to know. I'll tell you the truth. Maya wraps her hands around the cold coffee mug. Did you know Richard was marrying my mother before the planning meeting? No, I swear to you, I didn't make the connection until I saw him there, but you knew after. You had weeks to tell me. I did. James runs both hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration now, and I should have. I was wrong to wait, but Maya, I didn't tell you because I knew this would happen. I knew you'd find a way to make it mean something it doesn't. What does it mean then? Explain it to me. It means nothing. It's a coincidence in a city of millions. Richard married my ex-wife's mother a year before I even met you. That connection has nothing to do with us. But it's not just the connection, James, it's everything. Your whole life was falling apart when we met. Your marriage was ending. You'd just quit your job. You were lost. And then there I was. Safe, uncomplicated, someone who wouldn't demand too much, because I was too grateful to be chosen at all. James flinches like she's struck him. Is that really what you think? That I chose you because you were convenient? I think you chose me because I made you feel like a good person again. Like you weren't the guy who married the wrong woman and wasted years of both your lives. I was your redemption story, and you were what? Just going along with it. You don't get to erase your own agency here, Maya. You made choices too. You chose to trust me. You chose to believe this was real. You can't retroactively decide you were just a victim of my manipulation. The words are harsh but not unkind, and they land with the force of truth Maya doesn't want to acknowledge. Because he's right. She did choose this. Every coffee date, every late-night conversation, every moment of vulnerability. She walked into this with her eyes open. and now she's trying to rewrite the story to protect herself from the possibility of being hurt. The waitress refills Maya's coffee without asking. The silence stretches between them, heavy with things neither knows how to say. I talked to my ex-wife, James says finally. After you left, I called her and told her about you, about us. I wanted to make sure she heard it from me before Richard mentioned anything. Maya's stomach drops. What did she say? She said she wasn't surprised. That she'd known for a long time I wasn't really present in our marriage. She said ... double quotes. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. She said she hoped I'd finally found someone who made me feel like I could be myself. She wished you well. After everything, people are more complicated than the roles we assign them. She wasn't some villain in my story, and I wasn't in hers. We were just two people who wanted different things and were too scared to admit it. James reaches across the table, stops just short of touching her hand. The lesson I learned from that marriage wasn't that love doesn't work. It's that love without honesty doesn't work. And I've been more honest with you in 8 months than I was with her in 3 years. Maya feels tears burning behind her eyes. She blinks them back. Except when you weren't. Except when you decided I couldn't handle the truth about Richard. You're right. I made a mistake. I let my fear of losing you override my commitment to being honest. That was wrong. He finally closes the distance, his hand covering hers. But one mistake doesn't erase everything else. It doesn't make this fake, or make you a rebound, or make any of the stories you're telling yourself true. Maya looks down at their hands. His fingers are warm against her cold ones. She thinks about the past 8 months, the way he showed up outside her building with Thai food and a first edition novel, the way he sat through her shifts at weddings just to drive her home after, the way he believed in her when she'd forgotten how to believe in herself. But she also thinks about her mother, about all the times she convinced herself that sacrifice was love, that need was the same as connection. What if she's repeating those patterns with different words? I don't know how to tell the difference anymore, she whispers. Between what's real and what I want to be real, then let me tell you what I know is real. James's voice is steady now, certain. I know that you make me want to be braver, that I think about your opinion before I make decisions because what you think matters to me. I know that when something good happens, you're the first person I want to tell, and when something bad happens, you're the only person I want to talk to. He squeezes her hand gently. I know that I'm in love with you, Maya, not because you're convenient or safe or because you make me feel redeemed, but because you're you. Complicated and scared and brilliant and real. The words hang in the air between them. Maya has never heard anyone say those words to her before, not like that. Not with that kind of naked vulnerability that demands nothing in return. I'm in love with you too, she says, and it comes out like a confession. That's what makes this so terrifying, because what if we're both wrong? What if we've built this whole thing on broken foundations and we just can't see it yet? Then we'll deal with it when it happens. But Maya, you can't spend your whole life protecting yourself from pain by refusing to believe good things can happen. That's not living. That's just slowly dying while your heart's still beating. The truth of it cuts through her. This is her pattern. This is what she does. The moment something good enters her life, she finds reasons to distrust it. Looks for exits before anyone can leave her first. Her father's abandonment taught her that people leave. Her mother's illness taught her that love means sacrifice. Her whole life has been a series of lessons in how to expect less so disappointment hurts less. But James is offering something different. Not a guarantee that nothing will go wrong. Just a promise to face whatever comes honestly, together. Maya takes a shaky breath. I need you to understand something. I'm not good at this. I'm going to keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm going to question things. I'm going to be difficult, I know, and I'm probably going to run again. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. I'll pull back when things get too real. I know that too. So why do you want this? Why choose someone who's this much work? James smiles, sad and tender all at once. Because you're worth the work, and because loving you doesn't feel like work. It feels like coming home. They sit in the diner until the early morning light starts filtering through the windows. They talk about Richard and the strange coincidence of their connected lives. About James's ex-wife and the grace of her response. About Maya's mother and the years of resentment that might finally be healing into something else. They talk about fear and trust and all the ways people hurt each other while trying to love. And slowly, carefully, Maya lets herself believe. Not perfectly, not without reservation. But enough to keep choosing this. Enough to keep trying. When they finally leave the diner, the city is beginning to wake up. Early morning joggers, delivery trucks, the world continuing its relentless forward motion regardless of personal crises or reconciliations. Come home with me, James says in the parking lot. Not to my place, to yours. Let me make you breakfast. Let me just be with you, Maya. Almost says yes. Almost, but something stops her. A realization that's been building since the moment she drove away from her mother's wedding. I need to do something first, she says. Alone. James's expression flickers with worry, but he nods. Okay, whatever you need. Maya drives to the community college. It's Saturday morning, so the campus is mostly empty. She walks to the literature building, stands outside the classroom where she spent the past few months rediscovering what it feels like to learn, to want something for herself. She thinks about the wedding caterer who served champagne and stayed invisible, the girl who dropped out of college to take care of her mother, the woman who convinced herself that ambition was dangerous and desire was a luxury she couldn't afford. And she realizes that all of those versions of herself were survival strategies, ways of moving through a world that felt hostile and unpredictable. But they're not who she has to be anymore. Her phone buzzes. A text from her mother. "Call me when you can. I need to tell you something about last night." Maya stares at the message. There's more to this story. More connections she hasn't uncovered yet. She can feel it in the pit of her stomach, that instinct that something isn't quite adding up. She calls her mother. It rings 3 times before she answers. "Maya, honey, are you okay? James said you two had a fight. When did you talk to James?" A pause. "Too long. This morning he called to apologize for the scene at the wedding, but..." Something in her mother's voice sounds wrong, rehearsed, like she's reading from a script. "Mom, what's going on? What did you need to tell me?" Another pause. Maya can hear her mother breathing on the other end. When she finally speaks, her voice is small, ashamed. "I knew, Maya, about James, about his connection to Richard. I knew before I asked you to cater the wedding." The world tilts. Maya sits down hard on the steps of the literature building. "You knew, Richard told me. He thought it would be better if I told you, but I... .. Double quotes. Her mother's voice breaks. "I thought if I could just get you two in the same room, you'd have to work it out. I thought I was helping." Maya can't breathe. Her mother orchestrated this. Used her own wedding as a stage to force Maya and James into confrontation. The betrayal is so complete, so total, that for a moment Maya can't even process it. "Why?" The word comes out strangled. "Because I could see you pulling away from him. I could hear it in your voice when you talked about him, that fear, that certainty that it wouldn't last. And I thought... .. Double quotes. Her mother is crying now. "I thought if you faced the worst possible complication and he still chose you, you'd finally believe you deserved to be chosen." Maya closes her eyes. The manipulation is staggering, but underneath the anger, she recognizes something else. Her mother was trying to give her what she never gave herself, the chance to be fought for. "You had no right," Maya says. "I know. You used your own wedding as some kind of psychological intervention. I know. I'm so sorry, Maya. I just wanted you to be happy by lying to me, by manipulating me, by forcing you to see what's right in front of you." Her mother's voice hardened slightly. "You were going to run, Maya. You were going to find a reason to sabotage this because that's what you do. And I couldn't watch you do it again. The truth of it is unbearable." Because her mother is right. Maya was already halfway out the door, already writing the story of how this would end before it had a chance to truly begin. But knowing that doesn't make the manipulation okay. Doesn't make any of this okay. "I have to go," Maya says. "Maya, wait." She hangs up. Sits on the steps of the literature building with her head in her hands. Everything she thought she understood about last night has just shifted again. Her mother knew. Set her up, used her own wedding as a test, and James... Did James know too? The question forms like ice in her chest. She pulls out her phone, starts to call him, then stops. Because she realizes she doesn't want to know the answer over the phone. She needs to see his face, needs to watch his eyes when she asks. She gets in her van and drives to his apartment. The morning sun is fully up now, turning the sky a brilliant, painful blue. When she arrives, James is sitting on the front steps, as if he's been waiting. Maybe he has been. He stands when he sees her. His expression is careful, guarded. "My mother just called me," Maya says. She's still in the van, engine running, one foot on the brake. "She told me she knew about Richard, about your connection, before the wedding." James closes his eyes, opens them. "I know you know." "What do you mean, you know?" "Richard told me this morning. After I called my ex-wife, he said your mother wanted to create a situation where we'd have to be honest with each other. And you didn't think to tell me this at the diner when we were supposedly being completely honest. I found out after you left. I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to tell you." James takes a step closer. "Maya, I didn't know before last night. I swear to you, but I know how this looks." Maya laughs. "But it's bitter, empty. How it looks is that everyone in my life decided they knew better than me what I needed. My mother, Richard, even you in your own way." She puts the van in drive. "I came here to see if you knew. Now I have my answer. Wait please, where are you going?" Maya looks at him standing there in the morning light. This man she loves. This man who keeps secrets for noble reasons. This man who might be the best thing that ever happened to her, or just another person who thinks she needs to be managed rather than trusted. "I don't know," she says honestly, "but I need to figure it out alone." She drives away. In the rearview mirror, she watches James standing on the sidewalk, getting smaller and smaller until he disappears completely. And for the first time in months, Maya has no idea what happens next. ... Retry T. Maya drives without destination. The city gives way to suburbs, then 2 roads she doesn't recognize. She passes strip malls and storage facilities, schools with empty playgrounds, houses with cars and driveways that suggest lives being lived with some semblance of normalcy. She wonders what it's like to wake up in those houses, to not question every good thing that happens. to trust that the ground beneath you will hold. She ends up at a lake an hour outside the city. She's never been here before, didn't consciously choose it, but the GPS led her here through some algorithm that interprets restless driving as a search for water. Maybe it's right. There's something about large bodies of water that makes problems feel smaller, more manageable, or maybe just more clearly defined against the vastness. The parking lot is nearly empty. A few early morning fishermen casting lines from the shore. Maya sits on a bench facing the water and finally lets herself cry. Not the angry tears from last night. These are deeper. Grief for the version of this story she wanted to believe, for the simplicity that never existed, for the girl she was at 20, before her father left, before college became impossible, before she learned that wanting things was the first step toward losing them. Her phone has been silent for the past hour, James respecting her request for space, or giving up entirely. She's not sure which possibility frightens her more. She thinks about her mother's manipulation, the audacity of it, using her own wedding as a testing ground for her daughter's relationship. But underneath the anger, Maya recognizes something uncomfortably familiar. Her mother was trying to control an outcome she feared, trying to force a happy ending through sheer force of will. It's exactly what Maya does, just in reverse. Her mother pushes people together, Maya pushes them away, but both are operating from the same fear that love left unmanaged will destroy you. A woman sits down on the other end of the bench. She's older, maybe 70, with silver hair pulled back in a loose bun. She has a thermos of coffee and a paperback with a cracked spine. They sit in silence for a while, two strangers watching the same water. Trouble with a man? The woman asks eventually, not looking at Maya. Maya almost lies, almost says she's fine. But something about the stranger's tone, matter-of-fact and non-judgmental, opens something. Trouble with everyone, Maya says. My mother, my boyfriend, myself. The woman nods like this makes perfect sense. The holy trinity of female suffering. Despite everything, Maya laughs. Is that what this is? Among other things, the woman pours coffee into the thermos cap, offers it to Maya. I've been coming to this lake for 40 years, ever since my husband died. At first, I came because I couldn't stand to be in our house without him. Everything reminded me of what I'd lost. Then I kept coming because I liked the quiet. Now I come because I'm old and creatures of habit rarely break their patterns, even when the patterns have outlived their purpose. Maya accepts the coffee. It's strong and black and exactly what she needs. Did it get easier missing him? No, but I got better at carrying it. There's a difference. The woman looks at Maya directly for the first time. You know what I learned? The people who hurt us most are usually the ones who love us most. They just don't know how to do it right. Hell, none of us do. We're all just stumbling around trying not to destroy each other while also trying not to be destroyed. That's a bleak philosophy. It's a realistic one. Love isn't clean. It's not the movies. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes the people who love you will manipulate you and lie to you and make choices on your behalf because they think they know better. And sometimes they do know better. And sometimes they don't. And you have to decide whether their intention matters more than their action. Maya stares out at the water. A family of ducks glides past, moving in perfect formation. She thinks about James, about the look on his face when he said he loved her, about her mother, crying on the phone, admitting she'd orchestrated everything, about all the ways people try to control outcomes because uncertainty is unbearable. How do you know? Maya asks. How do you know if someone's manipulation comes from love or from their own need? You don't. Not for certain. That's the terrifying part. You have to make a choice based on incomplete information and then live with the consequences. The woman screws the cap back on the thermos. But I'll tell you what my mother told me when I was about your age, angry at everyone and convinced the world was conspiring against me. She said, you can be right, or you can be happy. Sometimes you get to be both, but if you're always choosing to be right, you'll spend your whole life alone. The words settle into Maya like stones dropping into deep water. She's been choosing to be right, collecting evidence of betrayal, building a case for why she should leave before she's left, and she is right. Her mother did manipulate her. James did keep secrets, but being right doesn't make her less alone. The woman stands, gathering her book and thermos. Good luck, honey, with the boyfriend and the mother and yourself. Especially yourself. She walks away, leaving Maya alone on the bench with borrowed coffee and unwanted wisdom. Maya pulls out her phone. 17 missed calls. Now dozens of texts. She scrolls through them. James asking where she is. Her mother apologizing repeatedly. Her best friend from high school. Someone she hasn't spoken to in months. Somehow alerted to the crisis and offering support. And then one text sent 20 minutes ago. From James. Just 3 words. I'm still here. Maya stares at those words. I'm still here. Not come back. Not we need to talk. Just a simple statement of presence. Of availability. Of willingness to wait. She thinks about the wedding where they met. About the groom with empty eyes who was about to make a terrible mistake. About the caterer who saw him and somehow knew. About the conversation in the kitchen that changed everything. What if none of it was coincidence? What if the universe, or fate, or whatever organizing principle governs these things, had been pushing them together all along? Her mother's manipulation was just one more force in a series of forces that seemed determined to make them face each other. Or maybe that's just a story she's telling herself because the alternative is that everything is random and meaningless is too bleak to bear. Maya finishes the coffee, returns the cup to where the old woman was sitting, a small gesture of gratitude. She gets back in her van and drives, not away this time, toward. She arrives at James's apartment just after noon. He's still sitting on the front steps, exactly where she left him hours ago. He looks exhausted, worried. But when he sees her van, something like hope crosses his face. Maya Parks gets out, walks toward him with her heart hammering against her ribs. "You look terrible," she says. "I've been sitting here for 5 hours wondering if you were coming back. I almost didn't, but you did, yeah." Maya sits down beside him on the steps, their shoulders touch. "I did." They sit in silence. A car passes, someone's dog barks in the distance. The world continues its ordinary rotation while they figure out how to be two people again instead of a problem to solve. "My mother had no right to do what she did," Maya says finally. "And you should have told me as soon as you knew." "I know, but I also know I was looking for a reason to run. I was halfway out the door before any of this happened. And that's on me, not you." James turns to look at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of protecting myself from hurt by refusing to believe anything good can last." Maya takes a breath. "I'm saying I want to try. Really try. Not the half-in version where I'm already planning my exit. The full, terrifying, no safety net version. Even after everything that happened. Especially after everything that happened. Because you're still here. You sat on these steps for 5 hours even though you had no idea if I was coming back. That means something." James reaches for her hand. "I'm not going anywhere, Maya. I don't care how long it takes for you to believe that. I'll just keep showing up until you do." Maya squeezes his hand. "I talked to a woman at a lake. She told me I could be right or I could be happy. I've been right my whole life. I'd like to try happy for a while. What does happy look like? I don't know yet, but I think it looks like forgiveness. For my mother. For you. For myself." Maya leans her head on his shoulder. "And I think it looks like trusting that even when people mess up, it doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means they're human." They sit on the steps as afternoon light fills the street. Maya calls her mother. The conversation is difficult and raw and necessary. They don't fix everything. Years of pattern don't dissolve in a single phone call, but they make a start. They agree to try, to be more honest, to trust each other with the hard stuff instead of just the easy stuff. When Maya hangs up, James is watching her with something like wonder what, she asks. "You're different since this morning. Something changed. I realized I've been living like I'm still that 11-year-old whose father left without explanation. Like I'm still that 20-year-old who had to drop out of school. Like I'm still the person bad things happen to instead of the person who gets to choose what happens next. And now I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing to believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserve something good." James pulls her close, kisses her forehead. "You deserve everything good. You always have." They go inside. James makes them lunch. They eat on his couch, talking about what comes next. Maya decides to enroll full-time in the fall, to quit catering and focus on school. James offers to help with expenses, and this time she accepts. Not because she can't do it alone, but because accepting help isn't the same as being helpless. They talk about her mother's wedding, about Richard and the strange web of connections that brought them all together. They decide to have dinner with them next week, to face the awkwardness head-on instead of letting it fester into resentment. "I need to tell you something," James says as they're washing dishes. "About why I didn't tell you about Richard right away." Maya tenses slightly but nods. "Okay. It wasn't just that I was afraid you'd run, it was also that I was ashamed." He sets down the dish he's drying. "When I saw Richard at that planning meeting, I realized how small the world actually is. How you can't really escape your past, only integrate it. And I was embarrassed that my failed marriage was going to intersect with your mother's new one. I felt like I was contaminating something that should have been separate and clean. Nothing is separate and clean. Everything connects to everything else. That's not contamination. That's just life. I know that now, but in that moment, I just wanted to keep you separate from all my mistakes. I wanted you to exist in this space where my past didn't matter." Maya takes the dish from him, dries it carefully. "Your past is part of you. I don't want a version of you that's edited to seem more acceptable. I want all of it. The mistakes and the wisdom that came from them. The messy divorce and the courage it took to leave. All of it." James looks at her with such raw emotion that she has to look away. "How did I get this lucky? You showed up at a wedding you didn't want to be at and started a conversation with the help that's not luck. That's courage, or desperation. Maybe both. Maybe that's what courage is. Desperation that moves you forward instead of keeping you frozen." They finish the dishes. The afternoon bleeds into evening. Maya realizes she hasn't eaten properly in over 24 hours. They order pizza, watch a movie neither of them pays attention to, fall asleep on the couch wrapped around each other like people who've been doing this for decades instead of months. When Maya wakes, it's dark outside. James is still asleep, his breathing steady and even. She studies his face in the dim light from the street. the small scar above his eyebrow, the lines at the corners of his eyes that deepen when he smiles, the vulnerability of sleep that makes everyone look younger, softer. She thinks about the wedding caterer she was 8 months ago, the woman who moved through other people's celebrations like a ghost, who believed her invisibility was safety, who wanted so little that disappointment became impossible. That woman is gone. Or not gone, exactly, but transformed, integrated into someone new, someone who wants things, someone who believes she might actually get them. Maya carefully extracts herself from the couch, goes to the window. The street is quiet, a few lights in neighboring windows. The ordinary architecture of other people's lives continuing in parallel to hers. Her phone buzzes, a text from her mother. "Thank you for calling today. I love you," Maya types back. "I love you too." 3 simple words. But they mean something different now. Not an obligation, not a transaction, just a statement of fact. Imperfect love between imperfect people who are trying to do better. She hears James stirring behind her. "Come back to bed," he mumbles, still half asleep. "In a minute, what are you thinking about?" Maya turns from the window, looks at this man who chose her, who keeps choosing her even when it's hard, even when she makes it hard. "I'm thinking about weddings," she says. "About all the ones I've worked. All those couples making promises, and I think I finally understand what they're promising. Not that they'll never hurt each other. Not that it will always be easy. Just that they'll keep showing up. That they'll choose each other again and again, even when everything else is telling them to run." James is fully awake now, sitting up, looking at her with an expression she can't quite read. "Maya, I'm not saying I want to get married tomorrow or even soon. I'm just saying I finally understand what it means to commit to something uncertain, to choose the risk because the alternative is worse." James crosses to where she's standing, takes both her hands in his. "I love you," he says. Simple, direct, true. "I know," Maya says. "I'm starting to believe it." And in that moment, standing in his apartment with the night pressing against the windows and the future spreading out before them, uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility, Maya finally lets herself imagine it. Not just the next week or month, but years. A whole life built with this person, with all the mess and complication and unexpected connections that come with it. She imagines going back to school, getting her degree, maybe teaching one day. She imagines James beside her through all of it, not fixing things for her, just being there, being steady, being real. She imagines forgiving her mother fully, understanding that people make mistakes while trying to love you, that intention doesn't erase harm, but it matters anyway. She imagines becoming someone who doesn't flinch when good things happen, who doesn't immediately start cataloging exits, who trusts that the ground beneath her will hold because she's finally learned how to stand on it properly. "What are you thinking?" James asks, watching her face. Maya smiles. "I'm thinking about this wedding I worked once, where the groom looked lost and the bride looked perfect and everything was exactly wrong. And how sometimes the best things come from the worst moments. How sometimes you have to watch something fall apart before you can build something real. Sounds like a story with a happy ending. I don't know about ending, but definitely happy." Maya kisses him soft, certain. A promise she's finally ready to make. Definitely happy. 6 months pass like a breath held and then released. The seasons turn. Summer arrives with its heavy heat and long evenings that stretch toward midnight. Maya finishes her spring semester with grades that surprise even her. She enrolls full-time for fall, just as she promised herself she would. The fear is still there. That old companion whispering that she's too old, too behind, too much of a risk. But now there's another voice, quieter but steadier, reminding her that she's already survived harder things than college essays and literature exams. James gets promoted at the community center. They want him to develop a new program for adult learners, people like Maya who left school and are finding their way back. He talks about it over dinner with the kind of enthusiasm she's learned means he's found something that matters. They've moved in together, a small 2-bedroom apartment with windows that face east so the morning light wakes them naturally. It's not much, but it's theirs. Built on honesty this time, on choice rather than convenience. Maya's mother and Richard invite them to Sunday dinners that are sometimes awkward and sometimes surprisingly easy. There's an unspoken agreement not to discuss the wedding, the manipulation, the ways everyone hurt each other while trying to help. Instead, they talk about small things. Richard's latest golf game, a recipe Maya's mother found, the kind of ordinary conversation that builds trust slowly, like sediment forming rock over centuries. One Sunday, after Richard and James have gone to the kitchen to argue about the proper way to brew coffee, Maya's mother reaches across the table and takes her hand. "I need to tell you something," she says quietly, "about why I did what I did. The real reason." Maya tenses. They've been doing so well. She's not sure she wants to excavate old pain. "When your father left," her mother continues, not waiting for permission, "I convinced myself it was because I wasn't enough, not pretty enough, not interesting enough, not whatever enough. And I passed that belief on to you without meaning to. Every time I needed you to take care of me, every time I fell apart and you had to hold things together, I was teaching you that your worth came from what you could do for others, not from who you were. Maya's throat tightens. Mom, let me finish, please. Her mother's eyes are bright with unshed tears. When I met Richard, he showed me something different, that I could be loved just for being myself. Messy and scared and imperfect. And I wanted that for you so badly. When I saw you with James, I saw you doing what I did, preparing for him to leave, looking for proof that you weren't enough. And I panicked. I thought if I could just force you to see that he stayed even when things got complicated, you'd finally believe you were worth staying for. You can't force someone to believe they're worthy. That's something you have to discover yourself. I know that now. But when you're a mother watching your daughter repeat your mistakes, logic doesn't really enter the equation. You just want to fix it, even when fixing it makes things worse. Maya looks at her mother, really looks, and for the first time, she sees not the woman who needed too much or controlled too much, but just another person stumbling through life trying to figure out how to love properly. Failing sometimes, trying anyway. I did discover it, Maya says, just not the way you planned. I discovered it by watching you marry Richard, by seeing that you could start over and choose differently, that the past doesn't have to be a life sentence. Her mother squeezes her hand. They sit like that until the men return with coffee brewed some compromise way that neither of them thinks is correct but both agree is acceptable. Later that week, Maya gets a call from the venue where she used to work. They're hosting a wedding. They're short-staffed. Would she be willing to help just this once? The pay is good. She's about to say no when something makes her hesitate. What kind of wedding, she asks. Small, intimate, second marriage for both of them. Very low-key. Maya agrees. She's not sure why. Maybe curiosity. Maybe the desire to see if she can return to that world without disappearing into it. James offers to come with her, but she tells him this is something she needs to do alone. The venue looks exactly as she remembers. Same crystal chandeliers. Same elegant draping. Same illusion of effortless perfection that takes armies of invisible people to maintain. But Maya doesn't feel invisible anymore. She moves through the space with different energy now, not a ghost, just someone doing a job. The couple arrives for the ceremony. They're older, maybe in their 50s, and the way they look at each other speaks of history, not the desperate passion of first love, but something deeper, the kind of affection that comes from choosing someone after you've already learned how hard choosing someone can be. During the reception, Maya notices the groom standing alone, looking out the same window where James stood years ago. But this groom looks different, present, content, at peace with his choice. The bride joins him, slipping her hand into his. Maya watches them whisper to each other, share a private smile, and she feels something shift in her chest. This is what she was looking for all those years. Not the performance of commitment, but the reality of it. To people who know exactly what they're signing up for and choosing it anyway. When the reception ends and Maya is packing up, the bride approaches her. Thank you for tonight, she says. Everything was perfect. I'm glad you're happy. The bride looks back at her new husband. You know what's strange? I never thought I'd do this again. After my first marriage ended, I was so certain I was done, that I'd used up my chance at this. But then I met him and I realized I wasn't done. I'd just learned what not to do. Maya feels tears prick her eyes. That's beautiful. It's terrifying is what it is. Knowing everything that can go wrong and choosing it anyway. But that's the thing about second chances. You appreciate them more because you know they're not guaranteed. The bride leaves. Maya finishes packing. As she's loading the last box into her van, she looks back at the venue. This place where her whole life changed. Where a groom with empty eyes started a conversation that led her here. To this moment. To this version of herself that she's still learning to inhabit. She drives home. James is asleep on the couch, a book open on his chest. She watches him for a moment, this man who keeps choosing her, and she thinks about all the versions of this story that could have been. If she'd never taken that catering job, if she'd never answered his question in the kitchen, if she'd never called him back after their first coffee, if she'd driven away that morning and never returned. But she did return. That's the story she gets to tell, not the one where she ran, the one where she stayed. Maya sits down beside him. He wakes, groggy and smiling. How was it? He asks. It was good. Really good. She takes his hand. I think I finally understand what these weddings are about. They're not about promising you'll never mess up or hurt each other or want to run. They're about promising you'll come back, that even when it's hard, even when you're scared, even when everything is telling you to protect yourself, you'll choose to stay vulnerable, to stay open, to keep trying. James sits up fully now, awake and attentive. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Maya laughs, surprised by her own courage. I'm not proposing, but I'm also not proposing. I'm saying that whenever we're ready, whenever it feels right, I'm not afraid anymore. Of this, of us, of building something permanent with someone I love. Even though permanent is terrifying, especially because permanent is terrifying. Because choosing the terrifying thing instead of the safe thing means you're actually alive. You're not just surviving, you're living. James pulls her close. They sit like that, wrapped around each other in the dim light of their small apartment, and Maya thinks about the wedding caterer she used to be. The one who believed invisibility was safety. Who served champagne to celebrating couples and told herself she was better off alone. Who looked at love like it was a trap instead of a choice. That woman needed to exist so this woman could be born. The one who knows her worth isn't determined by her usefulness, who understands that vulnerability isn't weakness but the only path to real connection, who has learned, slowly and painfully and beautifully, that she deserves to be chosen, not because she's perfect, but because she's real. Years from now, Maya will finish her degree. She'll become a teacher, just like she dreamed. She'll stand in front of classrooms full of students and tell them that it's never too late to start over, that the best stories are the ones where people choose courage over comfort, where they let themselves be seen, really seen, and discover they're loved anyway. James will be there, not fixing things, not saving her, just being present, being steady, being the person who shows up again and again, even when showing up is all he can offer. They'll have hard days. Fights about money and whose turn it is to do dishes and whether they should move to a bigger place or stay where they are. They'll hurt each other sometimes, the way everyone hurts the people they love, but they'll also come back, they'll apologize, they'll try again, and maybe one day, probably when Maya least expects it, she'll be the one standing in a wedding venue, not serving champagne this time, but wearing white. Not because white means purity or perfection, but because it's her turn to make promises, her turn to choose someone in front of everyone they love, her turn to believe that she deserves this happiness. But that's a story for another time. For now, she's here, in this apartment, with this man, in this moment that required every difficult choice and painful lesson and terrifying leap of faith that came before it. You know what I realized today? Maya says softly. The question isn't whether love will last forever. The question is whether you're brave enough to love like it will, even knowing it might not. James kisses her forehead. And are you brave enough? Maya thinks about the girl whose father left, the woman who dropped out of college, the caterer who stayed invisible. All the versions of herself that led to this one. All the scars that became wisdom. All the fear that became courage. Yeah, she says. I think I finally am. Outside, the city continues its endless rhythm. Lights in windows, cars on streets. Millions of people living millions of stories. Some ending, some beginning. Most somewhere in between. And in one small apartment. Two people who started as strangers at a wedding they both wanted to escape have found something neither was looking for but both desperately needed. Not perfection. Not certainty. Just the willingness to keep choosing each other. To keep showing up. To keep believing that love, real love, isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about ordinary mornings and difficult conversations and the quiet courage of staying when running would be easier. The woman who was just the wedding caterer is wearing different rings now. Invisible ones. Forged from trust and choice, and the daily decision to believe she's worthy of being loved. One day, those invisible rings might become visible, might catch the light and announce to the world what she already knows in her bones. But even if they don't, even if the future looks nothing like she imagines, she'll be okay, because she's finally learned the secret that everyone at those weddings was trying to figure out. That love isn't something you find, it's something you build, one honest conversation at a time, one difficult choice at a time. One moment of courage at a time. And Maya, she's been building for a while now. The foundation is solid. The walls are strong. And for the first time in her life, she's not afraid of what comes next. She's ready for it. Whatever it is, however it unfolds. She's finally, beautifully, terrifyingly ready.